friends. Welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws Podcast with East Forest. I'm East Forest. Thanks for joining us this week. I've got a conversation with Shane Mauss. Shane Mauss has been on the show several times, but this one we got to do in person. It's always awesome to be able to do stuff in person. He was in town here in Boise, Idaho on Tuesday. I asked him how long he's going to be on tour, and I think he literally told me indefinitely. You don't hear that very often. But he's traveling around and he's got this great show that's called A Better Trip, an immersive psychedelic comedy experience. And it's very unique, and I think you should check it out. He's going lots of places. You can check it out at shanemauss.com. That's MAUSS.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. Definitely check it out. But I love this conversation because Shane is funny, but he's also got a very analytical science brain, and we can get into all sorts of fun stuff. But more than that, he was really vulnerable about his own experiences with mental illness and sort of tying that to psychedelics and even like synchronicities. I just think it's fascinating. And it's bravo for being open to talk about it. And he is quite an open book. But I think not only is it important to talk about these things, but to talk to someone who's willing to talk about their own personal experience with it is incredible. So you're going to love this conversation. I did just get back from Esalen. I had a performance. We did the Altered States retreat with Rada and myself and some others, and then we're going to be going back in December, mid-December. It's December 15th through 18th for our Journey Space retreat, and I think there's still a couple spots left for that, but they are filling quickly. They tend to sell out, so grab a spot if you're interested. If you go to eastforest.org/tickets, it is a new link because we have a new website. It's mostly up. We have a couple pages we're still working on, but check it out. We have a whole new website. Shout out to my dear friend Louis Kofsky for helping produce that and get it across the finish line, as well as Dursu and La Playa Development. Thank you for all the hard work you did on that. But aside from that, I'm going to be in Japan soon, believe it or not, God willing. And that's going to be with Peter Broderick for the Each Story Festival, as well as an event in Tokyo on October 2nd, and hopefully one more date on October 9th, I believe. So all of that's at eastforest.org. And yeah. So anyway, Esalen, I wanted to play on the lawn. That has been a dream of mine for many, many years. And we talked about it for a long time, and I was very excited. To be honest, it's one of the main reasons I was like, all right, let's do this. I'm going to go because we're going to do this sunset on the lawn. And if you've been to Esalen, they have what might be like a $1 billion lawn from, it's like the most amazing lawn. It's on the cliff of the Pacific Ocean in Big Sur. And there's this one point where it kind of naturally goes down into a point, and the hill sort of slopes down almost like a natural amphitheater. So I don't know. I thought it was obvious that would be the spot to set up the stage and have the sunset behind me. But somehow the stage ended up sort of 90 degrees on the other end, up on the hill close to the garden, with a white pop-up tent between me and the ocean. But what are you going to do? But I still was able to play at sunset, which was magical. But as soon as it got dark, like dark, and the temperature dropped, it must be something to do with what they call biological physics or something, because this dew just was everywhere, like on the keys, the keyboard, the computer, the pedals, every cable, like this thick, almost like it was raining. There was so much moisture and dew on everything. I was wiping down the keys. It kind of freaked me out because I've never had all my electronics and been performing with that much just moisture right on top of everything. But aside from my fingers slipping all over the place, it was cool. It was really cool to look up and see that expansive ocean and be standing in Esalen. Of course, I think about Terence McKenna. I think about even Ram Dass back when he was Richard Alpert when he was there. Just the history, pretty special. So at the end of this podcast, I'm going to share a little recording from that performance, and I think you will enjoy it if you want to stick around. Later this month, on September 29th, I believe, is the next single called Bird's Eye from my Music for the Deck of the Titanic album. And then the entire album comes out on November 3rd. Very excited. And on November 7th is our big Los Angeles release show. That's Tuesday, November 7th. Marieme's going to be coming on the stage for a few songs. She's incredible to sing. She's also part of the record. So please grab a ticket to the LA show, November 7th. That's also at eastforest.org/tickets. And I can't wait to share all this stuff with you. And lastly, just thank you to everyone on our Patreon. We had a couple new signups, and that's always exciting to see that. I'm going to pull up those names right now. New this month is Joshua. Thank you for signing up. And recently, of course, Peter, Penelope, Jamie. Means a lot to have you sign up, including everyone else who signed up in August. It's a great way to support the podcast, great way to support the project in general. It's kind of the main way, besides coming to a show, telling a friend, or buying some merch or something. It's patreon.com/eastforest, and thank you for checking it out. And this podcast is evergreen, so all of the episodes going back to the very beginning, we're at 270-something here. They are all still relevant and valuable and amazing. So I encourage you to go back in time and download and save the ones you want. Click follow and subscribe. All right, let's get into this conversation with my friend and your friend, Shane Mauss.
Of God. And that manifestation, it's love all the way.
Yeah. All right, here we are.
Yay.
It's your 3rd time?
3rd or 4th, right?
Something like that.
First in person?
Yeah, I should tell people we ran into each other at the Psychedelic Science, and
That's right.
I was like, you're much taller
Yeah.
than you appear on Zoom.
I was thinking that. I was like, have we never met in person before? And it was, Psychedelic Science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of do a top-down, you're a top-down camera guy,
Yeah.
and it makes you look a little diminutive,
Oh,
if that's the right word.
Okay.
Oh, compared to, how tall
I
are
have a
you?
giant size. Yeah. I think with men you are supposed to shoot up and lady, but I like to
Or just
I like
shoot
to give
on,
myself
like-
like a feminine kind of
Most of the world's looking up
softness.
at you,
Yeah.
so that would be more accurate.
Yeah.
You see?
I actually have a thing when it doesn't affect me so much anymore. I think I've gotten over it.
What kind of thing?
But I have a thing. If people are taller than me,
Yeah.
it really bothers me.
But that's probably somewhat rare, is it not?
Yeah, it's like confusing to me when it happens. I'm like almost 6'4", and so when someone's like, especially if someone's like over 6'7", and I see them, I'm like, what? That's not supposed to. You aren't supposed to be taller than me. It's like a weird, confusing thing that my brain.
Do you ever think it's a plight of tall people? Is that a thing?
I
Or
wonder
people
if-
are like, you can't have problems with
I wonder
being
if
tall.
very short people, I wonder if they meet someone shorter, they're like, what? I'm the shortest one
How
around
dare you.
here. Yeah. I don't know. It might be, I think it's just, I think part of why I seem taller in person is it's not just a camera thing or eyeline thing, because I know audiences say the same thing. And I think that all of that it is that the brain just assumes
That you're
an
normal.
average height.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's like 80% of people think they're an above average driver, for instance.
Oh yeah, there's a wonderful book, The Folly of Fools. This guy Robert Trivers, who is this very bizarre, kind of outrageous type character who has his own. I think he's had a couple trips to psych wards and stuff like that. His own neurodiversity, and I think some schizophrenic, schizotypoid, maybe some bipolar type stuff. Interesting guy. Had changed the world of evolutionary thinking. He had 3 pretty big ideas that changed the way that
What era are we talking
thought
about here?
things.
Like-
This is probably like 50 years ago when he did some of his really landmark stuff. He's still alive and kicking. He's in Jamaica studying lizards because he moved there he didn't know what he wanted to do. First, he was going to be a mathematician, and then he's a really quirky, interesting, funny, outrageous guy. I've been to Jamaica a bunch, and I was already a fan, and so I was like, oh, this legend, I'll look him up. And he's more peculiar in person. He's always drinking pretty heavily. Like I think my first time I had him on my podcast. It was like probably a 10 a.m., 11 a.m. interview, and he's
on the sauce.
He was on the sauce already for that one. Every time I see him, he has a mix of a red stripe, a Bailey's, I think,
with red
like
stripe,
a little small flask of Bailey's, a red stripe, and then there's another Jamaica drink. But he does the three. But
he's making up a new drink there. It's like a White Russian with beer. Or something.
Yeah, it's always off-putting. Oh, and red wine, and that's the other one.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. He's kind of a crazy person. Loves weed. Loves bragging about his weed.
I was going to make a weed joke, and then I was like, I don't want Jamaica. It's too on the nose.
You go and visit his house, and he's like,
wow.
It's very adorable. He loves to like show you where he grows his weed at and everything.
So he's moderately paranoid.
85-year-old. Well, he was
milky
born
wine.
he went through the whole era of like, weed being very illegal and everything else, and him doing it anyway. And then he like did work with like the Black Panthers and stuff for a while. He's had such an interesting life, but
wow.
He moved to Jamaica as an undergrad. Someone was like, I need help studying lizards. And he's like, oh, all right, free trip to Jamaica. Got to Jamaica, decided that he really liked Jamaican women. And so he's like, I guess I study lizards now.
He decided that.
I didn't have much of an interest in lizards, and then came up with some ideas about, not even based on lizards, based on like watching pigeons and stuff like that. That changed some ideas of evolutionary biology. The reason why I'm talking about him right now is because there's this book, The Folly of Fools, which, there's aspects of it you can take or leave like any book, but it's a lot about the evolution of self-deception and a lot about those very things of like 80% of people believing that they're in the top 50 percentile of drivers, of intelligence,
right. Which, do you feel you fall into that category?
I mean,
Are you better than average?
I think that we all have aspects of that I think that it would be impossible for any of us to assess ourselves accurately on any given measure, and then some of us have like low self-esteem generally, and then some of us have it in like certain regards when we shouldn't. And so, yeah, I mean, definitely, I think the older you get, the more I'm like, am I that good of a driver? Am I that good of a parallel parker? Or do I just like, hey, watch everybody, I'm going to parallel park right. Like, what? What's a weird thing? Do you show off like your parallel parking abilities? I'll
be honest. If there's a car full of people and I have to parallel park, I feel pressure, but I feel like I'm going to kill this. And I'm not going to say anything. Like I'm going to do it in one move and see if anyone's like, wow.
Yeah, no, I announce it.
Yeah.
I make an announcement that I'm
hey
like,
guys, check this out. What'd you think of that?
You're in for a real treat right now. I think so. I think that having experienced, I've talked in the past about various mental health issues of my own, and mania really, when you come down from it, it highlights just how delusional you can be, because you can have, like, I was exceptional at math. I really was. I was horrible in every other. I never cared about school generally, and math was just the one thing that I didn't need to care or pay attention, and I was just top of the class every time. It was another thing, like being tall. If someone had a better test score than me ever in math, I was like, what? Like, that's not. How did that happen? And I was good at teaching it and everything else. And that was like up until calculus, and I was smoking weed all the time, and then really stopped caring. And then you like really needed to actually pay attention to learn calculus. Well, anyhow, you have a manic episode, and you start telling yourself stories of like, how is this happening to me? How am I tuning into these like special messages within the universe? And then you like look back through time to like figure out like, well, what's special about me? And then you go like, oh well, I was good in math, and like, oh, I must be a math genius that's now figuring out all of these special codes and these new forms of math that other people haven't figured out, and really it was just like,
you have the code.
I had more of a fondness for algebra than a lot of people did, so it wasn't. I didn't need to like. I didn't need to make a lot of effort to be good at it because I enjoyed doing it. Much like it's not very effortful for some people to learn a board game because they really enjoy it, where it's a nightmare to someone else.
But I have a question. I was actually talking to Rod about this last night. Am I remembering it correctly that you had a mania episode, but it was caught on film?
Well, the episode wasn't caught on film, kind of, unfortunately.
It was a documentary, right?
Yeah, my documentary, Psychonautics, A Comics Exploration of Psychedelics, which is on Amazon Prime. It's we set out to basically like kind of we go through this in the beginning of the documentary, which is it's all true. I didn't really know what I was doing with the documentary. It was just like we knew we wanted to make one, and I was on this tour, the psychedelic tour at the time, and I had an opportunity. It was Psychedelic Science Conference 2017 to interview all these like juggernauts in the psychedelic research community all in one place, and so just filmed all that, and then they're like, now what? And I'm like, I'll just do a bunch of psychedelics and we'll film it, and like it'll be great because I'll show people that these things aren't that crazy, and you can even do like more than you're supposed to more often, and nothing to worry about. Yeah. And
was this like in a hotel room, or where were you? At home?
Oh no, we went to different. Like I went to a ketamine clinic for ketamine, and then I went to like for mushrooms. I went there's a guy, speaking of Jamaica, a guy who ran a mushroom retreat in Jamaica.
How did you fund this?
And I had a producer that was interested in what I was doing, and his name is Matt Schuler, and him and the director Brian Belenkoff, they make a lot of comedy specials. They last year, I would guess they made like close to 100 comedy specials.
And this
like they crank out comedy specials. So he's big into comedy and everything else, and has always wanted to do something that's not
2017,
something comedy related, but not 2017.
That's a very different era in the psychedelic space.
Oh yeah,
really nothing like it is today.
Yeah.
Still pretty fringy.
But I went to do ayahuasca to prepare for doing ayahuasca on camera, and that's when I had my break.
Oh, gosh.
And and it was, and then I was super paranoid. Like it basically the filming of the documentary came to an end. I wasn't very helpful in editing it because I was like, I thought everything was a trick, and I like wasn't trusting.
How long
the
did this
editor
go on?
And
the
paranoia. Episode. I mean, let's see. So ayahuasca, I never quite came down from it. I was pretty manic and wrapping up enough for my girlfriend to be concerned for like a week before I then did mushrooms at Roger Waters' concert, and then that made me just like absolutely crack. And then my girlfriend, exceptionally concerned, trying to talk me into going to a hospital. There was like about a week of that. Went to a hospital the first time she was able to talk me into.
Like just hospital.
Yeah, like tricked myself into like, I was just coming up with like bizarre ideas.
That sounds really rough.
Oh, yeah.
Because especially with paranoia, I could just think you don't even know. There's no one to trust.
I didn't.
Or get help, I should say.
Well,
like
one of the worst things about it is that you go, like, the logic of it all kind of makes sense in a way that's also just horribly wrong at the same time. But it's like you could see how a brain could get to that, which is that you start coming up with these ideas of like, you know, there's a lot of depersonalization involved, and like oh, this has been a simulation this whole time. Why? What is the purpose of the simulation, and why am I the center of it? Because you're kind of defaulting back to these baseline cognitive biases, egocentrism being the single greatest cognitive bias that any species experiences. And so then you find yourself like, once again at the center of this simulation. So why are you at the center? Are you in charge of it? Is it in charge of you? If it's in charge of you, why? Is this some trick on you? And then if it is a trick and it is like a Truman Show-ish type experience that you're having, then the people that you care about the most are actually the ones who must be the most in on it. They're the ones that must be going through
that is a slippery slope.
Most hoops to like be in on this ploy, and so it's terrifying. So then the people that care the most about you, the people that are doing their best and looking out for you, they're the ones that are the most in on it, and that's such a dangerous territory.
So it is compounding on itself in a way. But what pulled you out of that?
The first time meds. The first time it was
just
meds.
Kind of taking the chemical temperature down.
I mean, a lot of it is just lack of sleep. So what would happen? Like the first week, went to a hospital, and then they were like, my girlfriend drugged me there, and I reluctantly, like, you got to catch someone in just the right mood to get, like, bipolar people are notorious for being resistant and not open to treatment of any kind. Like people that are borderline personality will often be like, "Oh, I'm borderline. Oh, okay,
it's borderline.
I'll like attend to that or take like the meds or whatever, more likely than someone that's bipolar." And so so the first time, I think it was, I mean, it's a little foggy at this stage, but I know at that time it was just like, you know what? It was, I do need to go to a hospital to talk to a doctor to get them to tell my girlfriend to stop like giving me a hard time about, like, clearly a doctor will be smart enough to understand how genius my ideas are. And so then you go to a hospital, and then the doctor's like, we aren't letting you out of here until like you take like, either you can take this sedative that will put you to sleep, or I'll call security and like we will hold you down. And it's like, it's terrifying. And so I did take that. I mean, it was hard. It was hard for everyone, my girlfriend, for everybody.
Sure.
And then I got sleep, woke up, was able to, talk myself out of the situation, or talk to them enough. I've since found out that the bar to kind of hold someone against their will is like quite high. And so if you can demonstrate, there's some criteria, I won't remember exactly, but it's something around like if you can demonstrate that you understand what a person is saying, that you can, I mean, they're not telling you that this is what the test is, but this is what they're about.
Well, these are tips if you might be committed.
Yeah.
And you want out.
Yeah, and you want out, which is like, I don't know if the psych ward is the best place for someone in a state like that. There's people with clipboards taking notes. There's cameras everywhere. It doesn't help with paranoia. Most people are at least as crazy, if not crazier than you. I don't know. It's not it doesn't exactly cool things down.
Bad set and setting.
Yeah. You need to demonstrate that you understand what's being said, like not just repeating it back to them, but like reframing what they're saying, so like that you can manipulate those ideas and demonstrate that you understand what's being said, that you can make a choice, and that your choice has some sort of logic, like you understand why you're making that decision that you're making.
Right.
So there's like, you want to hear a really, really crazy example of this?
Yeah, sure.
I was talking with an eye surgeon friend of mine. Some people are going to cringe. This is a horrifying story.
Trigger warning on
warning.
descriptive surgeries is my guess.
Yeah, I have a friend who went to medical school for. I'm going to pull up a picture to show you.
Oh, Jesus.
The picture I'm going to show you is you're going to get a kick out of. This isn't the horrifying thing. So he went to medical school. He became an eye surgeon. He kept going to school to get more and more specialized. And at first you tell yourself a story that like, I'm going to help kids that like get their nearly lose an eye, and now they're going to be messed up for life, but I'm going to do plastic surgery and then they'll have a normal life. And that's the story that you tell yourself. Yeah. And then you get into it and you end up fixing old people's wrinkles to make their eyes look a little bit better, and you make a fortune doing it, but you're not doing a whole lot of good in the world, really. And so then you need to think of things that you can give back. And what he does is he's in Chicago. He goes to Cook County once a week and helps train like other eye surgeons and stuff. And Cook County is like the community hospital there. It's notoriously one of like the rougher
Chicago?
Yeah.
Isn't that where ER was supposed to be? Remember that old TV show?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the I mean, there's like lots of science studies and stuff done there because they're like, it's like such a like lost cause of a place so much that they're like willing to try anything. And so lots of like new systems and stuff are tried out there. It's a very like guinea pig kind of hospital because they're just in over their heads constantly. And so he goes there once a week and makes the rounds, and he's usually the only, he goes in and like, there's a lot of things that he does that's like he's the only person that comes through Cook County that would be able to do this, so you need to wait until the Wednesday or whatever. And so he's like, the normal thing that'll happen, he's like he doesn't ever get called this is just routine. It's like many times a day someone comes in, they're a mechanic, they didn't put their eye safety on, and they have little shards of metal in their eye, and this you just like take a pin and pop it out. That's just your general run of the mill eye emergency. And then he starts getting into crazy stories, and I'll just skip to the craziest one, which is someone was in handcuffs and they found some piece of metal and were able to like start picking at the locks and stuff, and then they were able to like use this piece of metal as like a lever, I guess, and they were able to break open the handcuffs. And then when they did that, and they were having like some sort of an episode, and then when they did that, they swallowed half of the handcuff.
Wait, this goes like this, actually?
That's the
like
stomach.
That's their hip bone?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was holding it upside down.
Oh, my God. So that's inside their stomach.
That's inside their stomach. And I was like, I asked him, I was like, how do they even swallow that?
That's quite large. That's
so
like,
large.
Holy cow, that's a piece of the handcuff.
That's a piece of a
handcuff. That's like the part that goes in the cuff with a little jagged edge. It's a large piece of metal inside.
With a jagged edge. Yeah.
It went down somehow their throat, which seems impossible.
Know how it fits. Yeah. And then I was like, how did it get out? And he's like, yeah, they were like, they took an X-ray and the gastrologist was like, I'll let him pass it. Like,
that's impossible.
I know.
Aren't there like, I don't know, several hundred turns in your intestines?
That's like how, like like that they need to it's like a military paramedic sort of situation at this hospital where they need to like triage based on need, and it's like I'm so busy doing all these other stomach surgeries constantly that we just gotta hope this guy can pass this handcuff through.
I think that's more like placing evolution, like we're like, you know what, let's let nature take care of this one. This person, if they make it, then hey,
exactly.
you should be continuing on.
Exactly.
If you don't,
you get an
you know
award.
Better luck next life.
Yeah, you had to wear that around your neck. This went all through my body. I'd make a necklace out of that.
It's like a yogic technique where they have the string.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
it's on both ends.
Exactly.
That's a thing.
So at this point, listeners might be wondering why
we're talking about this.
Why we're talking about this? Why an eye surgeon? Why an eye surgeon's hearing about that?
Yes.
And the thing is that is the piece that they pried it open with. They took that piece and then they jammed it in their eye.
Just to add a little more a distraction.
Swallowed this, jammed it in the eye. I don't know if it was like to hide the evidence or something. Like you're out of the handcuffs. Like you clearly broke the handcuffs. Like I don't know what happened.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of blood coming out of your face.
And
this.
and so like, he's walking to this appointment as they're telling him, and he's like, "What do you mean, like jammed it into the?" He's like in its eye, it's like in his eyeball, and they're like, "No, it's in his orbital lobe. It's behind his eyeball."
Oh my god!
And he's like, "Well, can he see?" And they're like, "Yeah, he can see out of that eye still." And he's like, "Oh, so he wants it out?" And they're like, "No, he wants to keep it
because it's a secret chip that's helping him read minds." Yeah.
So he wants to keep it. He's like, "Well, this is an optional surgery. This is a voluntary. Like it's not impeding his vision, and I can't."
How would they even take that out?
Oh, you
take your eye out and.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
like,
I've seen
he does
movies.
crazier things.
Yeah. Tom Cruise did it.
Tom Cruise, he does all his own stunts.
He took his eyes out and put other eyes in.
So then they're like, he's like, well, I can't, because they can't just operate on your eyeball without your permission if it's not like a life-threatening situation, because if something goes wrong,
I would think he would get infected.
Blind.
He didn't wash his hands before he shoved it in there. He didn't sterilize it.
Well, there's a lot to worry about when you've just jammed a piece of sharp metal into your eye and you love it there. You jam it in.
That is a conversation starter with a therapist.
Yeah.
Let's start with this.
And you go,
tell me more about.
No regrets. It's still there. I jammed it in. Still love it. And so then then they're they're like, well, we're worried about infection and everything else. He's like, well, if you guys want me to get that out of there, then you need to like take the power of attorney away from him, which means you need to like have. So they brought in like 3 different psychiatrists to talk to this guy.
This is the same guy who's got the handcuff in his stomach.
Yeah.
They're like, that's cool.
Yeah. That's
but
good.
The
you
eye.
Swallow.
We're gonna get some attorneys in here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they weren't at. People swallow things all the time. The stomach's tough.
You're meant to swallow things.
Yeah,
you're not meant to put things behind your eyeball.
Exactly. That should be on a coffee mug or something for this guy. It's a very specific demographic.
I'm sure he's dead. The odds that this person is alive today extremely low.
I don't know.
He is
think he's sitting in
better
jail,
than average as a human being. Everybody thinks he is.
I mean, that's a hell of a story. You have a story like that in jail?
Maybe
I think that you get to lead.
Yeah, maybe he is better than average.
I think you just get a gang. And they're like, Like, you want to lead my gang?
You got a handcuff
I'm sick of
in
being
your
like
side
the
right
crazy guy all of the time.
He's the Aussie.
It's
Yeah.
really wearing on me, being the craziest person in prison. I'd like to pass the torch. And so yeah, so this is how I found this. Is that like the psychologist came in, and then we're like, and then they were like, yeah, no, he seems fine to me, which is by their standard of like the what it takes to
Yeah, but this is like the
take
test
away
they
the
gave
power
Donald
of
Trump.
eternity.
You know, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
draw a circle or something.
But that's what, to put someone in a psych ward, you need to take away their power of attorney, essentially.
So it's actually
for the most part.
a high bar.
It's a
for
very
even
high
if you just
bar.
shove something in your eye and swallowed a
For me
a
to go to a
handcuff.
psych ward, my parents and like family and stuff was there, and they were able to trick me into like giving power of attorney
had to
my
sign- you
parents.
had to sign
I
something.
had to sign something, which they tricked me into. Like I didn't know that what was happening, honestly. And so I got tricked, and that was after going to a hospital, waking up, being okay, because like really it's the biggest issue would be sleep. Like everything's fun and exciting and big ideas until like a week or two goes by where you haven't slept, and then things like really go off the rails and you're
Is it
hallucinating.
is you not sleeping because unless there's substances involved, I would think your body eventually you wouldn't have a choice. You would fall asleep.
I mean,
Like what's keeping you up?
that's a long conversation, but I mean, first, usually the experience of it is first it starts, everything's like either confusing, intriguing, or very exciting in some way. Like you are noticing these new patterns that you hadn't noticed before. There's seemingly special messages for you. Every billboard has the meaning that you know is like the meaning for everyone else.
Yeah.
But then it also has like a special meaning for you.
There's a fine line
specific
between
to-
synchronicity
There
that we all
is.
experience and it seems somewhat like the same phenomenon.
In fact, I just don't get to experience synchronicities anymore. If I have a synchronicity, if I walk out of here today and I experience a synchronicity, I go, I have to like look at my calendar, mark it, and be like, I have about one week, maybe two, and if I start having more of these, and if they start ramping up like that, is like within 2 weeks, within 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be in a psych ward if I don't figure out how to like navigate my mind. In the
So
right
for
way.
you, a synchronicity is actually a harbinger of
it
like
really is.
it's the opposite. For a lot of us, it's like
Yay, the universe! Like,
Yeah, it just
I'm like,
happened to me when we
oh,
were-
no.
Yeah, I get the little ones with 11.
Yeah. I
We were
used to.
I was
I
making
don't
you
get
coffee.
to have them anymore.
Yeah, it
I'm not
happened. And
allowed.
I was like, while I was saying a particular thing,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's beautiful. And
I know. Yeah, I know.
and for
man.
you, it's a dark cloud.
It is a very, very
Interesting.
dark cloud. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one day again I'll
Well,
allow myself.
tell me more about that. So
Yeah.
when for you, a synchronicity happens, and for you, it's like, now I got to watch out. For what, though? What would be the things that would, like, it's exacerbating or it's not? Or
So this is connected to the sleep thing. So I would say every time's a little bit different, but I would say, and it's not like I have tons of experience with it. So I had the first time that it happened that I eventually, after a couple trips to a hospital, ended up in a psych ward, and then good like. And got meds, which I went off as soon as it put out the fire, but it did put out the fire. And you don't want to go cold turkey off those meds, but I did. And then
just like trazodone or what kind of
olanzapine, I want to say.
like tranquilizers or antipsychotics, mood stabilizers?
Yeah.
Those are heavy.
Yeah. And honestly, they weren't that bad, but it also wasn't something. It was tricky because I also knew, because I talk with doctors, like I have doctor friends and therapist friends, I knew it wasn't like a long-term thing, but they were keeping me on it more than I should have been switched to like lithium or something like that. I probably wouldn't have taken that anyway, to be honest. But
So synchronicity.
so synchronicity. So I'll just say like it's happened. I've had 4 like very extreme manic episodes like this. All my other manic episodes have been mania, like bipolar 2 mania, which is very different than what we're talking about, which is bipolar 1. And so what'll happen is the synchronicities, usually they're pretty exciting at first, or like you've tuned into something, and then that starts happening more and more, where like, okay, I'm now seeing these patterns within the universe that other people, and like this is seemingly guiding in me in some way. And that's very exciting. And then you start going like, why is this happening to me? Was it what is it that I did? Like what? I'll often come up with like a lot of time travel ideas, and there must have been something that I got nudged in some way along the way.
So
and
one of the first things is it must involve time travel.
Yeah.
First level of logic.
Well, I was big into physics for a while as well, and so like your brain will use kind of a lot of whatever your past
so in essence,
history is.
You're trying to explain the synchronicity.
Yeah.
As opposed to being accepted, and that's that.
Right. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like,
I mean,
clearly there's a kind of connective tissue here. What is it? What is its meaning?
Right.
Is it more than just this thing? Will it continue? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because it starts to come along with like responsibilities too, where it starts seeming like you're controlling like certain things, and like I moved my arm this way, and then that seemed to like move that squirrel over there, which moved that cloud, which made that bus honk, which scared that child, which and like that was my arm that did all of that. And so it starts getting like more and more connected like that. And so then you're like, well, I better watch out how I like move my limbs. I don't want anyone getting hit by a bus.
A lot of squirrels.
Yeah. And so then you're like, well, why? How did I get this power? Right. And so like at first often the ideas are like kind of pretty exciting. And then there's like an energy to that keeps you like up and going. If you start experiencing this, I would definitely lay off coffee first and foremost. And then not just like start trying to like make drawings. And if you find yourself like making drawings and you don't normally find yourself making drawings, trying to solve puzzles of the universe, that's kind of a cue that something's kind of starting to get revved up. But then it's like once there's like this pathway opened up in your mind, at first what it feels like is, you don't need sleep. Like, not only am I not sleeping, I'm getting so much done. I've never felt so good in my life. Like sleep is just this like silly thing that I've been wasting my life doing. And what an advantage I now have that I have like created some sort of structure in my mind where I don't need sleep like other people do. So
you would maybe drink coffee or do things to not sleep.
I would also do a little bit of that, but mostly it was on the natch. But it would be like 2 hours. I would sleep and I'd wake up within like 2 hours. You know, like when you go to sleep and you wake up like feeling inspired
and get back to the drawings.
And then you get back to the well, you I'm sure with music and stuff, you're like you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, you know what, I got to put this down and play this a little bit, and then you're up for an hour or two. Having that like creative space, and then you go back to bed. It's like that without the going back to bed, just always.
So that would definitely make things worse if you're up and up and up for a long weeks.
And so then what happens is like whatever is keeping you up, like then it's like your subconscious has like gained more control of your consciousness than it normally does. And it wants to keep that control. So then once like enthusiasm and inspiration run out, then it will just go after any salient emotions that will keep that engagement there. And so then that's when like it'll be like anxiety or like paranoia. And then often there's like, it'll use disgust a lot, like you'll just be like looking around and you'll be walking and you'll see like a dog like poop on the sidewalk, and like in your mind you're just like you just in your mind's eye, you just see the whole journey of the poop in like the way that you just never have before, and just this revolting, and it's just like the imagery in your mind's eye will just become like, it'll be like horribly violent or horribly just disgusting or sexual,
kind of amplification
just
on many levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there analogs in any way to depression, when like depression for me in those episodes has felt so distorted, and part of you is aware of that, but it's almost like when you're really angry, you're aware you're really angry, and you're in this weird state but part of you kind of enjoys being angry. And when you're depressed, like you kind of know it, and you don't really feel in control of getting out of it, but you also see it in a sense like, man, nothing is positive right now.
Yeah.
And I know that a while back that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Or most things were fine. But right now it seems like so I mean, is there even that part of you? I'm just curious if there are any similarities, or if you've ever dealt with depression, or if they're very different, like that, these manic episodes of like distortion mentally.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, it's the same in that it's almost the exact opposite, which is,
instead of up, it's just down.
Yeah, and I mean, that's I mean, state dependent memory is a hell of a thing, which is just that it's a fun, well studied phenomenon, which is like the environment that you're in is just wherever you're at tends to feel like the way things always are, or are always going to be, and when you look back, the brain's more of a validator and confirmer than it is some objective truth assessing machine. And so when you're in a really depressed state and you look back on life, like of course you're going to remember like when things went wrong and all of this, and it's like it's always been this way. It is very testable. They have people like bipolar people or just regular people experiencing all sorts of moods, and whatever mood that they're in, they also ask people like, how would you say your life has been generally? And if they're in a positive mood, they tend to be like, I've had a good life.
Above average.
If they're in a shit mood, they're like, it's been meaningless. My whole life has been misery.
So you're here in town because you're on tour doing your show, which is largely around psychedelics.
Yeah.
And you're talking about these episodes and stuff. I mean, some of the indicators that people talk about with psychedelics is this family history of schizophrenia or bipolar. Sort of they ask you, have you or your family members been hospitalized for a mental health issue? And looking back or looking now, I mean, you're someone who has enjoyed many psychedelic experiences. That's a lot of what your show is about.
Yeah, still do.
Which is very funny, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
And you said this is an indefinite tour, right? Like, people can probably catch it somewhere.
I pretty much know what it's basically. We're making one trip around the entire country, maybe doing some European stuff in Australia and maybe some other international things, and then making another trip, because a lot of the way that we route things, it's a lot of times just a certain city won't work out with the timing, especially the first part of the tour kicked off so last minute that we will, in the second leg, we will go back to every venue that we liked that sold out, which has been like every single one so far, and then we'll add all of the cities that we wanted to go to but missed out on, like Missoula, Montana.
I mean, how many dates are we talking about here for this show?
How many dates?
Potentially,
like a few hundred, I think.
Wow,
it's gonna take a couple years to finish.
Damn, man.
And then I'll be done. But I also have a meeting about making it a special and stuff. And so if that happens sooner, then I'd maybe just move on a little sooner. So we'll see. But I'm at least going everywhere in the U.S.
Everywhere.
everywhere. Like I mean, within a few hours of
like every
any
state.
City. Oh yeah.
Seriously.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That
yeah,
sounds
everywhere.
unbelievably crazy to me. But
I mean, I'm going.
and there's people
we're
in every
Boise
state
right now. I'm going
interested
to
in
Twin Falls
psychedelics.
tonight.
Like,
Oh, my specialty really that I stumbled on in the first tour is in underserved markets. I mean, you were at the Boise show. Other than their projector breaking and the show starting an hour late, it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's great.
But like, it's also Boise's like a pretty cool city for where it is, and
it's the urban place of Idaho. So
Yeah,
I would think like, yeah, that's where you would play.
So it is. It's a nice market, but like, I'll go to Twin Falls tonight. I bet that will do really well because it's like the Flaming Lips will come through Boise. They
Right.
might not necessarily come
Well,
through Twin Falls.
They don't come through Boise actually, but I hear what you're saying. And how big is the venue in Twin Falls?
Basically, all that I'm saying is like there is a psychedelic audience everywhere,
Amazing.
and it's booming. And usually, if you find places that like I use the Flaming Lips as just like, if you went to say Minot, North Dakota, some city that you've never heard of, and it's an area where like if the Flaming Lips went there, they would sell 1,000 tickets easily. There's 1,000 people there interested in the Flaming Lips. Nothing else in that city has anything to offer any of those people. It's a like shithole, like hyper opposite of like anything like artsy, but there's curious, creative people everywhere, and those audiences come out like crazy. So I actually do the best in cities that you wouldn't think.
Is there a certain size though? It's like the city or the area has to have at least a certain population just for a numbers game.
I'm about to find out, so I'm pushing it, and I have a couple like 600, 800 seaters in Billings, Montana, and Bozeman, Montana, and those are small. Those are like
markets.
One I think is like 60,000, and others like 100,000.
Well,
people,
Bozeman's a bit more like that you probably get people.
Yeah,
I would think because it's more liberal
it's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Billings is probably going to be a little bit of a tougher sell. We'll see, but I'll find out more. But yeah, there's diminishing returns on what I do to get the word out and everything else. There's only so many people interested in psychedelics in a given area, but those areas that you wouldn't think of, those are the most enthusiastic crowds. Where if you were like, hey, where would you think you'd go to do a psychedelic show, and you'd be like, oh, maybe San Francisco comes to mind, like LA, New York, something like that. Those are going to be like the hardest markets because there's already so much of that.
A lot of
around,
competition, and it's expensive to do shows too.
And it's like there's people there have plenty to do. I do really well in areas where people are just so desperate just for anything. That's where I do the best.
Desperate audience. They're just I'll see anything.
Yeah,
that's where I do well.
If I have to compete with anything or anyone, like, oof, I don't like my chances. But you go somewhere where it's just an entertainment desert, where they have like no other options for
your
live
savior has
entertainment.
arrived.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what you're doing is somewhat unusual, I think, in the comedy space because you're doing this all on your own. You're renting venues, going to venues, taking a show. It's longer than an hour special, of material. It's multimedia.
If I can get it under 90 minutes, I'm thrilled.
It was
I get up there, I start
2 hours.
It was about 100 minutes last night, pretty easily.
Okay. What I'm saying is like it's I think it's more work to kind of put on a show, start to finish under your name, and as opposed to doing even an hour-long set at a comedy club, like headlining.
Oh, yeah. Comedy club would just show up and walk on stage.
Well, it's got to be. It's not to diminish an hour set. That's a lot. But I'm just saying, you're kind of charting your own path? That I would imagine that's a bit unusual in the comedy space.
Yeah, for sure.
You're really just going for it on your own.
Yeah. And everyone thought I was crazy for doing it when I started back in like 2015.
And now they're all like,
and they're
damn
like, good luck with that.
And now the model.
And now they're all like, people hit me up constantly like, hey, what's your secret? What do you? I'm like, well. The secret is like a lot of secrets. I've been doing it for 8 years.
I moved my arm.
And
the squirrel moves.
And the bus almost hits the child.
The secret,
that makes I have magic powers. I was always really good at math, and I figured it all out. I'm the chosen person. Yeah, obviously.
Good luck.
Just be a math genius and be chosen by the universe, and you should be just fine.
Well, I would imagine, though, comedy's so hot right now. It's having a great moment, and that just seems that you figured out. It's just cool that you have your own path.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's fun and scary and all the things. But the thing is with the way that I built things is because I was a lot of people at this point don't even know that I was just like a regular like. Fairly successful comedian that was on late night and doing all that, and I was like,
you've been doing this a while.
Yeah, I mean, 2009, Shane was a stand-up comedian with a lot of buzz. That
Shorter
some
hair.
people was like, this guy's going to be the next big comedian. And then like shortly after that, I got into science stuff, and people were like, oh, why'd you do that? I wish you would go back to telling your regular jokes again. And I was like, I don't care. That's not what I'm doing. But before that, when I was like a regular comedian, it was like every club it started hurting my act because I couldn't take the same chances on stage because it was like I need to have this club rebook me next year at this time for me to have an income and keep growing a base and everything. This club needs to like me. I can't have negative comments on comment cards, so I can't.
They do comment cards. At comedy clubs?
Oh my god, comedy clubs can be really shitty. Some of them are awesome, but yeah, some of them are really crappy. Yeah,
it's not just about what the booker's into.
Like
they're like, we want to know what the audience thinks.
I don't know how much they pay attention to that, but I mean, if I were a club, I wouldn't want to read the comment cards. I'm sure most of the comments are like, you charged me $20 for these mozzarella sticks that are the worst thing I've put in my mouth. That has to be the majority of the negative comments have to be about their food and whatnot. But what happened was now, like, you know, I was at the Knitting Factory. It was a fantastic venue. The projector broke and created a delay, but outside of that, it was an amazing, beautiful space. I really liked it, and you know, if next time around I don't like the deal that they offer me, I go like, I actually don't need you like this. I can just go to a different
Treefort Music Hall.
Like I can, just go to the next place. Like it doesn't. Cool. No worries. I'll just go over here. So like you can like give me a higher percentage or. And so like I very much am in charge in that way. But things can go, I mean, I've seen it again and again. Things can just go away at any time, whatever has buzz at a given moment, whatever marketing strategies. In the 8 years that I've been producing my own shows, like, I mean, social media always changes, the various strategies and everything else. And it changes. I mean, I have a person who's just, basically their full-time job is just like, how do we get butts in seats? Like what
sort of
can we
marketing?
Do? What can we do on social media? What ads can we run? What local PR can we do? What various like organizations can we reach out to?
Seems like they're doing a good job.
Promotion.
I mean, yeah, you're selling.
Yeah. And so yeah. And then I have a good product. Usually, like when I started, I was like, I don't market. That's someone else's job. I don't do the business. I'm an artiste and all of this. And I put all of my work into writing and developing my skills. And I'm grateful that I did that. But it was always, and it's a bit of a cliche, that the people that are good at producing shows are not good comedians, and comedians are not good business people. And that is like, because both those things are hard.
Except
And
Kevin
so
Hart,
to
maybe.
do both is a hard thing to
Totally.
do. And then some people, and this is what I finally started trying to do reluctantly after I already had, over 10 years under my belt, is figuring that aspect out of it. And when you do it, and when you can fill those seats and then also have the experience and skill to give people a good show, it is like the whole package. And so I'm not saying this is bragging. I'm saying like
it's been a long journey to get there.
It's been a long journey, and I'm like still a nobody that is like, I'm a little bit scrappy in terms of figuring out how to do this. And most people that come to my show, they had never heard of me before.
Really?
They like see a poster or whatever. I would say 2/3 of the audience.
They just were
before,
interested in
like,
the
they
subject or
saw
comedy
my
put
marketing
together.
or whatever else. Yeah. And I've done the same with the science shows that I do.
That's
Same
remarkable.
thing. It's not just like the psychedelic show. It's just I've carved out a niche of like creating these specific themed shows and putting together a marketing package and preview videos and things like that for people that get people curious, and then they show up and I deliver, and then they tell their friends when I come back.
How much time do you have to put into admin?
Oh, I mean, it's most of my day. It's more of my day than anything else.
Do you ever feel burnout on that? That you're just like, man, I'm just
currently
never
like looking for an
not...
executive assistant. I had one for I had an assistant for 6 years.
I mean, you have someone helping with marketing. I'm assuming, is there an agent involved?
There is now. It
So we're
used to be
negotiating-
me and my marketing person. So I had a full team. I had a bigger team before COVID, and then
Yeah,
I
I mean,
eventually
for those
had to
who are
get rid of
interested, I
everybody.
think we talked about this a little bit in our very first episode together in 2020,
Yeah.
right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
They can go back and
it was one.
you're
of,
doing the science
It was one of
tour.
the saddest things for me. Wasn't me being out of work. It was having to like
I remember
all
you
these
saying
people
that.
depended on income from me and trying to keep them afloat and rework everything. So I have right now. I have a social person, and I have a that does like outreach and stuff, and then I have for local groups and things, and then I have an agent that also like helps with. We're starting to put together like after parties and things like that, and do like sponsorship deals and things.
Yeah.
And then I have a new product line that I'll share, and other people can just follow me, and I'll be making announcements soon that are exciting. But I can't.
You can put it in your mouth.
I'm not sure what I can say about it legally just yet till we finished a few more conversations. But that's coming out September 26th to 28th, and then and so I'm currently in the market for. It'll be an assistant that, if they're good enough, will become an executive assistant.
But is the idea that you would then have a little more time?
The idea is I want to like in the evening have an email that's like, here's everything that you need to do tomorrow. Here's the plan. Here's what's being done on your behalf. Here's what's being delegated.
And all those conversations,
And then-
maybe some of them on your behalf, because that's the thing. There's so many.
Yeah,
things.
but I still need to know they're being done. Otherwise, it's the thing that like I wake
You
up
don't
in
wanna
the middle
track
of the
people
night.
tracking.
And,
I have trouble with that.
Yeah. And so I have that, and then I have artists that I work with. I have a VJ that does the show, and then I have a graphic design person who's like. I'm starting to. We'll probably be full time pretty soon. That also does
Really? Wow.
web
When
design.
you say full
stuff,
time, you
and,
mean like they're working 8 hours a day for you?
pretty soon they will be
Just doing graphic design.
starting next month. Yeah. But also like probably doing some stuff for social videos and stuff. I just hired someone. If people look at my social, I don't do any organic reach stuff. So I'll probably start doing organic content because I'm also starting my Here We Are podcast up again slowly, and so that's all. It's
Are you gonna get on Threads?
It's definitely I'll have over 10 people working for me within a month or so.
So what's the miracle outcome? Like where if several years from now, 5 years from now?
Well, honestly, like. The psychedelic stuff is something that I reluctantly got in. I wasn't sure if I was going to get back into doing psychedelic comedy. During COVID, I had a lot of like mixed feelings about my own relationship with psychedelics, the psychedelic community in general, and really it was psychedelic art that sucked me back in. I reluctantly took a MC gig for this
you
conference,
did
Meet Delic,
and
Vegas, and it happened to be at this Area 15 place in this one of those Van Gogh exhibits, the 360 degree space. And I'd already been, before COVID, I have like 2 projectors with me and stuff, and I would set up things, and I was trying to do multimedia stuff anyway. And when I saw that, I was like, that would be an interesting project to take on if I could because I've always liked working with the artists in the psychedelic community. So if I could take something like that on, that would be a fun project to put together. And then I did it, and it's built for one of those spaces, but we tour on the road with a normal screen place. And so that's what got me into it. But I think after this tour, I wouldn't be surprised if I never do a psychedelic show again. I also wouldn't be surprised if 20 years from now we
everything comes back.
But I haven't been doing any of my science communication stuff for about 6 months. I've done like very little of it, and I miss it quite a bit. It's something that's more important to me. The other thing is that I've always been hyper conscious about pigeonholing myself as like this psychedelic comedian. Yeah. Because I'm so much more. And now I'm just like, after this tour, I'll have enough money that if I want to rebrand myself to do whatever, I can do that. And I never cared about money before COVID. And now I'm like, now I'm going to make a bunch of money and make sure that
feel more secure.
That I'm never living in my parents' basement again, no matter what happens to the world, and have a team that feels secure and everything else. And so now I'm in a position where I'll be able to rebrand myself. So I'll probably finish this tour, make some specials, and then do some science shows that I'm far more interested in.
Yeah. Well, okay. Just a couple. Are we good with time?
I'm in no hurry to do anything.
A little sciencey, but or not. But I just want to be remiss if I didn't ask you about music and psychedelics.
Yeah.
Sort of your thoughts on it. It's our Galaxy Brain time. No.
No.
But I'm making a doc on that subject. I think I told you about it. It's called Music from Mushrooms, and well. You're being filmed right now by another camera.
This is wonderful.
Yeah.
I got to send you my ketamine playlist.
Sure, please.
Yeah.
Please.
I played you one of the songs the other night.
Oh God, what was that? That was weird.
Yeah, in a good way.
It had all this high frequency like EDM things going on, and
like a child voice and stuff.
It's
like very it's something that I like to throw in like halfway through.
People are
going to
want to know what it is. Do you know the title or the artist?
I could look
it up.
What if I share the whole play? Because I just want people to experience the way it's meant to be experienced.
The opposite of East Forest for Academy, basically another polarity. Let's do it.
Because I want people to have a full ketamine experience, have it, and then be. They'll know what song we're talking about as soon as it happens.
What he's saying is he's going to drop this in the middle, I'm sure, of a journey, and you're going to be like, what? What?
Yeah, exactly. And it's meant to have that effect at the perfect time. I honed a playlist over hundreds of ketamine experiences, and it's delightful.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear that. I always like to hear different perspectives. But the role of music, it's a big thing, and it always has been. And I just feel like it's not given as much credence these days as maybe it should. And I don't know if there's just any thoughts or anything you've come across in your travels or musings or personal experience about like the role music plays in not just a psychedelic experience, but just sort of like in transformation in your brain and like our lives.
Oh, I mean, so I don't, so there's this big five, this is, you've heard of like Myers-Briggs and stuff, right? So that's academics don't use that anymore. It's kind of like been scientifically like kind of not
the internet ruined it.
But and it was never really tested that much before it came out. But they use this big five that is no one pretends that it's perfect. But essentially, I really enjoy the methodology of it, which is they took basically every way that you could describe a personality and surveyed people on those things, and then they started seeing where there was correlation. So if someone happened to be very tidy, it turned out that they tend to be punctual as well. Not always, but like, okay, and then we'll cluster and then they tend to be organized as well. So we're going to cluster those traits into conscientiousness. So that's one of the big five. So it's conscientiousness, agreeability, neuroticism, which is like your low emotion affect, how susceptible you are to low emotional states. And then there's extroversion and openness. And so it's nice because you can kind of understand where you are on any one of those with just hearing explained what they are, but then you can really dive into it and get more analytical as it gets endlessly fractal, like more complicated. And so I'm a little low in agreeability, and
I think you're agreeable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten more agreeable.
I think you're above average on agreeable.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I mean, most people are just like in the middle on most of these traits, and they're careful to say that there's no good or bad, and there's evolved reasons why
But we know
people
there
go
is,
along
yeah.
a spectrum. There are ones that like predict more success or predict being liked more and that sort of thing, and people tend to like happier people more, that sort of thing. But what's interesting is, and I used to be much lower in agreeability than I am, but I was taking this class on personality research once, and this just hit me, and it resonated with me so much, and it's applicable to my music taste, which is people that are low in agreeability tend to just generally not like most things, but when they like something, they
sounds like me.
obsess like it's crazy, and it's almost as if, and this is a metaphor, but it rather than like some accurate scientific thing that's about to pop out of my mouth, but metaphorically, it's almost as if we all actually have the same units of like agreeability or enthusiasm or whatever, and people that are lower in agreeability are just like more discerning about when they're using it.
Yeah.
And so then when they find something like
I'm dumping my chips into that.
and so that's the way that I am with music. I actually don't listen to that much music. I don't find new music very often. And then like once a year, I'm usually like, and so my biggest obsession is Aesop Rock, which is not Aesop Rocky, who is more popular and was named. Apparently didn't know there was an Aesop Rock.
That sounds like siphoning streams there. Yeah.
I know.
That's a thing. Like people are like to spell it slightly differently.
Yeah.
And then people out there are so stupid. They just like, I've been listening to Beyonce for years, and it's like
Beyonce.
not even her music. Yeah, it's like it's Beyonce with like an accent or something.
That's
it's like shitty beats.
Amazing. Well, he streams.
Everybody says
really
it's good.
well.
I don't know, but yeah.
Well, Aesop Rock, he's really interesting. He has one thing I like is I'm rather insecure about my my vocabulary, and he has testably the largest vocabulary like in music. They
more than like Eminem. He was always known for that.
Yeah, so they actually did they analyzed like every rap album and then just looked at the diversity of words used within a given album, and yeah, it was like Lil Wayne on the low end, and then the upside down U shaped distribution or whatever, and then Eminem was way on the other end of using the most words, and then way off the chart, like double that number of words as Aesop Rock in a class of his own. But he doesn't do it to be showy. It's just like truly who he is, and when you first listen, you're like, none of it. A lot of times, just none of it makes sense, and a lot of it is just him rapping to himself. So it's like inside jokes to himself that like you really have to like know his life situation and his whole catalog. Like he really doesn't care. He's just in a cabin by himself in Oregon, and
Where?
And like I think
He's in
outside
Oregon?
of Portland, yeah.
No
and
way.
he's like into skateboarding and stuff, and but he is he has isolation and depression issues clearly, and is like quite open with them, and has like rap about like going to therapy and stuff, and he has stuff that like I've had things where I've listened to where it's because a lot of times it'll take me like 20 listens to understand like what he's even saying in parts, and even that I'm not getting all of it. It's like it's poetry, you know. And sometimes I'll just be listening and I'll just hear something that just like explains something from my childhood, which led to this, which
that a
led to this,
synchronicity?
which led to this.
I don't
That
know,
I'm like,
man.
oh, but it's and
He could be a
that's
gateway.
that's not a synchronicity. That's more just like feeling heard or something,
Okay.
and being seen, and which is a different feeling.
I mean, where's the line if like the lyrics like says Shane?
Yeah,
And
if
it's
it
your
says
name
Shane
or
in
your
there,
mother's name or
well,
something,
that
you're
is
like,
with
wait
music.
a minute.
I'll swear, like when I'm manic, I'll swear, like I'll be listening to music and I'm like, what is this song? I haven't, because I think it'll like even fuck with just like what you're hearing, because you'll be sitting there
Right,
in a
right.
car and it'll be like, there's a chicken across the street. There's a chicken across. As like a chicken's like literally
Moving
across
your elbow.
like,
Moving my left arm.
why is it singing about a chicken being across the street and there's like literally a chick? That's the most random thing, and then it's like, this is not just a random. And then like as you're having this, and, yeah, that's more of a synchronicity. This is more, yeah, my
Poetic.
That's my, because I don't like poetry generally, and so that's like my relationship with music is I find a thing and I get so incredibly obsessed with it.
Has music played a big role in any of these voluminous, copious amount of psychedelic journeys you've had?
Pretty much always. I mean, most of the best and biggest trips that I've had have been by myself. Before I started doing like full-on psychedelic comedy shows, I mostly just ate mushrooms by myself. I didn't even know, like, I mean, I guess I'd heard of Burning Man.
You were doing research
10 years ago or whatever.
It paid off.
Like, honestly, I just loved mushrooms in particular. I was up for whatever, but mushrooms in particular, I just loved so much. And I just had such a personal relationship. And then the more experienced I got, I found that, like, if I eat mushrooms with other people, whether they ask me to or whether there's any sense of obligation, I will just subconsciously feel some obligation to be like the guide and the trip sitter, and whether it's warranted or not, I'll just have that in me. I'll be like attending to like, oh, does everyone have water? Are we like, what time is it? Where are we in the trip right now? How's everyone feeling? Do we want to go outside instead? Does everyone want to go for a walk? Like,
Yeah.
And it's just, that's its own sort of fun, and I enjoy that. But the really special ones by myself, and generally it would be, I'll just find some David Attenborough documentaries to put on the TV, put it on mute, and then play whatever music that, like, I'm a bit of a cliche. Pink Floyd has been a huge part of my life, a big part of many of my trips.
Oh, I should play for you. I have Pink Floyd quadraphonically right here. You ever heard it?
No.
It'll blow your mind. Well, sidebar, but like they made it quadraphonic,
Yeah.
right? And you'll hear like the Money song, da-dong, jinka-ching, jinka-ching. The reason there's four of them is because of you'll hear the music is different. Like that's why they did four of those. Oh, that's why that thing's here, because they wanted to go bounce. Like it changes the album big time.
Wow.
And I have this is an Atmos system, but that was just quad, and you have to hear a little bit of it.
What about? Oh, I absolutely will. What about Live at Pompeii.
I don't
Did
have
they do it
that,
with that?
but we could probably get it.
Oh man, that is special. Live at Pompeii, I think, is the best concert album that there's ever. Are you familiar?
I haven't listened. Now I'm going to definitely listen to it in full because
Well, the story of it's delightful too. Is during Woodstock, where just like the who's who of this and that are all going to this big concert in Woodstock, and it's gonna be this and that thing, and Pink Floyd is like, yeah, pass. And then they went to these ruins in Pompeii and played a concert to nobody. And
I love
filmed
site-specific music events like that.
It was so incredible.
That's so good.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
recorded it.
And just recorded it, and it's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
So good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. So music, you like to kind of, your ideal is journeying alone with the Nature Channel on mute and music.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm surprised you're like looking at a screen. It's usually just like
Oh,
you know.
no. I like to have a lot of different options. And so usually I have mind folds, and then I like to have the availability, but I want to have everything set up so I don't need to like figure out buttons on the remote or whatever.
Well,
like I really
say,
go for it. Like I don't want to have to use my phone for any reason.
Totally. Yeah.
I have separate voice recorders. This is another because they have the voice recorder apps on your phone. So you're like, well, why would I want one of these old school voice recorders that I'm just going to use? You want it for tripping. That's why. Yeah. Because it'll remind you to take notes. You don't need to stop your music or use your phone to use it. And I came up with this. It was after a ketamine trip where I got frustrated because I wanted to make a voice note, but I had to like find the app in my phone while I'm on, peaking on ketamine, and then I hit record and it stops the music, and then I'm
terrible.
Like listening to
buzzkill.
It was such a, and afterwards I was like, no, and I found I was in Raleigh, and it was like 4 a.m. I looked up at Amazon, like, boy, I'm like, do these even exist still?
eBay, man, I bet you get one for like $5.
Dude, $23 new off of Amazon, same day delivery. I ordered it. It was to my place by 11 in the morning.
The world is so weird.
It is, because it's like,
yeah, you need a tow? I'll get you a tow. You need a voice recorder?
And it was so, because it's also like an impressive piece of technology that is so completely useless today. Like we're now so advanced past this impressive piece of technology that it's surprising that it still exists.
Yeah.
And it does exist, and you can have it for the price of a pizza delivered almost
11.
just as fast.
Yeah.
Almost just as fast as pizza and as cheap. It's like that would, imagine bringing a voice recorder back like 100 years ago, even 1,000 years ago. You're a wizard, but even
you would have stolen a soul for sure. 2 of my songs are voice recordings. I would often record myself right like at the end of the trips. I mean, you're in it.
That's delightful.
But you can talk.
Yeah.
And it's more like, it's essentially just, I'm trying to give myself notes.
Yeah.
And then later on I sampled it, and one of them is one of the most popular songs. And I remember thinking like, this is too vulnerable, and people are going to make fun of me, and this is just a guy, tripping.
Yeah,
but eventually it's like, I think I really edited it down. So it's really just maybe 25 words.
I love that.
But it actually holds, I think, some kind of vulnerability and authenticity that we're all kind of searching for. It's like, I don't care what people think. I'm just going to, this is what came to me, or this is what I felt, or this is what I heard.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, music is, it helps so much. I mean, have you done DMT without music?
I haven't done any of these things without music.
It's a different experience. It's like, it'll leave you like wanting if you have experience with DMT and music. I mean, they're their own thing, and it's cool to just have this trade experience too. But I mean, there's a reason why if you listen to like classic Icaros or whatever, which is like, as much as my skeptical side will be like, just anything that's like woo-woo or tradition like or whatever, I tend to just like fires up a lot of questioning in my head even when I don't want it to, but I can't help myself. But Icaros, if you're on ayahuasca, there's reasons why. I mean the brain loves being surprised, so you're hearing like this predictable, and then out of nowhere, just like where you're like, what the fuck was that sound? But it like lights off this whole like brand new image in your mind, because your brain's like quickly trying to make sense of whatever the fuck that surprise was, while you're also in an altered state, and it's
fun,
and it's so
likes
amazing,
likes to turn corners,
and yeah, it loves to turn corners. And so to have that, to add that, to have music add that little extra bit of benign surprise during, because it's surprises during a trip can be awful. They can make things turn real bad, but music has that delightful, like, benign surprise that really often can heighten the experience quite a bit. And you also don't, I mean, you're experiencing kind of this synesthetic state, which is kind of crosstalk between senses that your brain has otherwise kind of compartmentalized to make navigating our perception more manageable. But it's I mean, every baby is born with kind of like into this blob of perception, and then your brain gets categorized. This is a shape, and this is a color, and there's this synaptic pruning that severs connections between those categorizations to make processing easier. And some people, that synaptic pruning doesn't happen in a certain region, and then they see music as color or whatever, and this is synesthesia. Well, psychedelics stimulates that same, so you get to experience this, suddenly music has color attached to it,
right,
and maybe even sometimes a smell or something like that, and depending on.
It's like you get to experience the wider bandwidth and spectrum of music that's always there, but our perceptions just need to be tuned to hear it all.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
So how could that not be good?
I mean, you can, like, if we were just in this room, if I was just like in this room in just silence tripping, it also, I mean, looks like padded walls and stuff, so it would be a little freaky.
At least it's white and natural light. I mean, you see the sky. It's not so bad.
But
there's a bed up there.
Outdoors in nature, I would say. But that's the same sort of thing where it's your perceptions maybe are heightened a little bit. So now you're hearing like a rustling or some little critter or something like that more than you usually would. So you're getting those kind of like benign surprises again. But yeah, music's been a very big part of my psychedelic journey, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, have you done much nitrous at all?
What's much?
Yeah.
I
So
don't
you've
want to be
done
like
nitrous.
Yeah.
So like,
let me put it this
clearly...
way. I had a friend who once told me that you should experience nitrous oxide with MDMA, and he said it's interesting. And I remember doing it, and with very clean nitrous, and going into the space I went into and being just like angelic, crystalline, understanding oneness, like completely blown away. I remember hearing his voice saying interesting. I was like, oh, interesting. Huh?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, buddy.
Yeah.
Yes, it is interesting. And I told him, it's like, dude, underselling. Well, he says, well, it is interesting.
I don't know how many audio hallucinations that you've experienced on nitrous.
Strange,
but it's like, oh, this is
very strange.
This is how people got into becoming DJs. They did nitrous, heard these sounds, and were like, oh, I'm going to replicate that sound. Yeah. There's a lot of dentist DJs.
That's where it all began. Yeah. That's where dubstep started. It just sounds like you're at the dentist, actually. It's true. My friend Michael told me that we were at Burning Man like 2007. He's like, this is basically just like dentist music. Nailed it.
That is nailing it.
Yeah, it's
Because it all started with nitrous. I mean, it had to, like when I do nitrous and I hear the, because you can just be out in like nature or something, and it'll just start going womp 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 womp. And I'm like, oh, this is where all of DJ music came from. That's
Have you ever
incredible.
combined nitrous oxide with ketamine?
Yeah.
It's not the same as like with the MDMA. Like you trip.
Yeah.
Like seriously trip for a long time, like an hour.
Yeah.
It's a strange interaction. Hey, and just
yeah.
disclaimer, none of these are things you should be trying without doing your own research, or I don't know anything about what I'm talking about here.
I mean, I do find mixing ketamine with anything, I don't know. I find ketamine
It's not
to be
usually my bag
overpowering.
to do these mixes.
I
But,
I don't mind doing ketamine like before the onset. Like I don't like the first bit of the mushroom experience, and so if I gobble mushrooms, then do ketamine, then it's like, oh, then I don't need to. Then I'm just off on ketamine for an hour. I don't need to experience the unpleasantness of the early part of a mushroom trip, and then I get out and I'm like a little. It's like a groggy mushroom trip for a minute, but that wears off soon enough, and then I'm
interesting.
tripping. Yeah.
Never heard of that one. McKenna would lay out joints in front of him and just sit there and go through his joints on his mushroom experiences.
Really?
Yeah, according to him, he'd be in the dark, alone. I don't know. He didn't put on music or anything, which I thought was odd. But he says he couldn't imagine doing it without marijuana.
I mean, it helps a little bit for someone that
Well, he
that
smokes
doesn't
all day,
like
every day.
weed.
I mean, also there's that. Like
Right.
it'd be stranger for him not to be high.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can help. But I don't like marijuana at all, and I've had pretty positive experiences with mushrooms and marijuana.
Well, thanks for talking.
Yeah.
Seems like a good place to end. I want to play that Pink Floyd. So the tour is on the road, and I recommend people seeing it. It's a lot of fun.
There's
and it's unique.
live visuals and things with my VJ Michael Strauss, bringing everything to life in real time.
Yeah, and I mean, what's fun is partially that if you've had any experiences of any kind in the psychedelic space, it just feels like you're being fed all these like, we know the jokes, or it's like all these things. I'm like, yep, been there, yep, been there. And I think even if you hadn't, there's a lot of things are cultural memes. It's still a lot of fun. You won't be like, I don't know what they're talking about. It's very approachable.
Yeah, absolutely. That's by design. Yeah, thanks for chatting. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Shane. Until next time. Thanks, Shane, for coming on the show. That was super fun. I love laughing, and I love seeing your show. Go check it out. Check out the link below in the show notes, shanemauss.com. I'd highly recommend going to something on his tour. What else is going on? Oh, this week in Boise, by the way, is that Mindful event. It's sort of a conscious, amazing, immersive dance event. I think you're definitely gonna dig that. My friend Devin's putting that on, and he's gonna be DJing along with some friends. I'm forgetting everyone who's doing it, but I will put that in the show notes as well. Check it out. It's this weekend, and this song that you're hearing in the background is a live version of Nature from the Ram Dass album, but performed live at the Esalen Retreat, sort of an improvisation, just exploring where the music goes in that landscape with those samples and everything else. I shared a live version like this of Grandmother's Fear, but over on the Patreon only, and I'll be sharing some more songs from this live set, and I share a lot of songs from my live sets that I find are special on the Patreon. Check it out, patreon.com/East Forest, and I hope to see you out there on the road November 7th in LA and Japan, if you're in Japan, coming up soon. So check it all out, eastforest.org. Y'all keep walking your walk. Don't take any shit, but if you do it with grace.
trees, grasses, water, sun, stars, moon, clouds, rain, all are our friends, are us. Nature embraces us, and we embrace nature. We are nature. We are the trees and the clouds and the waters. When you hug a tree, you're hugging yourself. We are human beings. Human beings are part of nature. When you're seeing the ocean or the lake or the river, you're seeing yourself. Nature is a manifestation of God. In that manifestation, it's love all the way.